Leadership series. Welcome. Happy Friday. I hope you are gearing up for a wonderful weekend. And if you're not, that's one of the reasons we're here is to figure out why not. What can we do about it? And while I'm not here to make your weekends perfect, that's something I'd love to do, but one session at a time. We are here to talk about burnout. And I want today to help you learn how to let burnout go for good. If you've been following along since the start of this series, it's the third one. Thank you for showing up for yourself these past few weeks. And if this is your first session with me, I'm so glad you're here. You've landed on a really powerful one to close us out of this series. But don't be sad. We're going to be back next week just with a new series. I'll tell you about that at the end. For anyone new around here, I'm Toni Collis. I'm an executive coach for women in tech, board advisor, former tech executive myself. I am on a mission to change the tech industry for the better. I fundamentally believe we desperately need better technology for the human race. And the best and fastest way to do that is to make sure that there is a more diverse, I know that's becoming a toxic word, but there's a more diverse set of leaders making decisions about this technology. We know the more diverse the leadership is, the better the decisions that are made, the better the technology is made. We know it's better for the human race. We know we make more profit. It should be a no-brainer. And so I'm on a mission to make sure that women in tech, whatever your role is, whether you're an engineer or you're head of human resources or the CEO, it doesn't matter. Technology needs more diversity at the table, and I'm here to make sure that women are part of that. So I help brilliant women just like you rise into leadership, drive impact, enjoy their careers they work so hard for. And today we're talking about how to do that without burnout that so often comes with it. Now, over the last couple of sessions, we've explored the executive burnout that nobody talks about. We named the problem, recognize that burnout doesn't stop at middle management. It follows us into the C-suite if we're not careful. And then last week, we talked about how to build a career that doesn't break you. We talked about designing sustainability in how you lead with better habits, boundaries, and priorities. And today we're bringing it all together for a significantly great, I don't know, Friday words, and magnificently great close, because I want burnout to be something that you never have again. I want you to beat it for good. And that's what we're talking about today. So as you're joining, as you're coming in, give me a thumbs up in the chat to let me know you can hear me, because sometimes technology is against me. A couple of weeks ago, for example, this went live in the wrong place on LinkedIn. And I was just talking to myself. And I mean, I was able to share it with people afterwards, but none of you found me live. So it'd be great if I got a thumbs up from somebody who's watching me live, just so I know that this is working, that the technology is working for me today. And that's where we're going to go today, though, is a way to protect our energy, protect our impact, make sure we're having an impact, and provide career longevity for the long haul. Because I want you to love what you do, and I want you to do that without burnout. So let's start with a truth that hits close to home for a lot of high achievers. We don't burn out once, we burn out in cycles. And I say we because I've been there, done that, got all the t-shirts. Here's how it usually goes. This may sound familiar for you. You push hard, you deliver, you go above and beyond. Again, you start to feel the fatigue creeping in. Something's not quite right, something's misaligned. But you tell yourself, it's just a busy week. You tell yourself, I'm just busy. You don't actually have a look at why you're unhappy. You keep pushing because that's what's always worked before. Until one day you hit that wall, you crash. You pull back for a bit, rest, maybe even think, okay, I've learned my lesson. Maybe I'm going to take a few months between jobs. I've had clients take a whole year between jobs and then come back because they're not done. But then we go right back to the same patterns. That's the burnout loop, the cycle. It's sneaky because it feels in the moment and looks from the outside like success, right up until it doesn't. And I truly believe this is one of the big drivers of why 51% of women leave the tech industry by the midpoint of their career, because there's only so many cycles we can go through. We get to the second or the third one, we've just quit a job or we're quitting a job and we go, well, I'm not going back to tech. We blame tech for it. Here's the secret. It isn't because it's tech. It's because we're allowing burnout to exist. And I say allow because there doesn't feel, I know it really doesn't feel like you're allowing anything. Who chooses burnout? But the way we are operating is allowing burnout. And I say that even if you're in a toxic environment, which I'm going to come to, because burnout and toxicity do go hand in hand. Absolutely. At the end of the day, toxicity causes misalignment and stress is what causes burnout. Let me actually just do a recap. I've talked about it every week, but if for anybody new around here, it's really worth just recognizing what burnout is. Burnout is not working hard. Let me just put that to bed. Burnout is not working hard, long hours. It correlates with that often, but that is not what causes burnout. That doesn't mean I think working long hours and doing crazy work and hustle is good. I don't. That's another thing. I don't think it's good for business. We make poorer decisions, but that isn't what causes burnout. Burnout is stress. Burnout actually can happen when you aren't working hard because you feel misaligned. Clients of mine that have decided to quiet quit often experience burnout because you're emotionally misaligned. That causes stress. You've decided to leave, but you can't tell anybody. That causes stress. Chronic long-term stress, that's what causes burnout, not working hard. It correlates with working hard because often we overwork because we're stressed, and that then causes burnout. But they are not the same thing. Mistake we make is that we think we can fix it by working harder, right? Or taking a quick break, or finding a better time management system. But the truth is, burnout doesn't end when you recover. It ends when you lead differently. Because if you go back to leading the same way, overextending, over efforting, over owning, the burnout will always come back. So I want to ask you something, and to be honest with yourself here. Where are you in that cycle right now? Pop in the comments or drop me a DM. Are you pushing? Are you crashing? Or are you recovering but maybe a little afraid it's going to happen again? Drop in the comments. Push, crash, recovery. Let's get a pulse check here. Where are you? Because today I want to show you how to interrupt that cycle completely, how to stop just surviving burnout and start leading in a way that makes it impossible for burnout to stick around. All right, so let's talk about what it actually takes to beat burnout for good. I've got a couple of shifts you're going to make. I've got a bit of a framework towards the end. So stick through this whole thing. Get your pen and paper out if you can to take notes. If you are in the car, come back to this and take notes. In fact, drop me a comment if you're in the car. Drop me a comment later that you'd like a cheat sheet, because I can turn this into a cheat sheet. I've not done that, but if you'd like a cheat sheet because you are driving or commuting and you don't have the ability to take notes, let me know. Happy to provide a cheat sheet, but I'm not going to create it if nobody asks for it. So, but I do think this is stuff worth writing down. So here we go. Harder and harder to stick to, because remember, this is about stress. So shift number 1, go from over efforting to strategic energy use. I always think rather than focusing on protecting our time, we need to protect our energy, right? Not enough energy makes us stressed. Not enough time doesn't actually make us stressed. We think it does, but it doesn't. It's our lack of energy. High achievers tend to have a default of effort equals value. The harder you work, the more valuable you must be, right? Except that's not true at the executive level. And it's exactly what fuels burnout. Sustainable leaders don't give maximum effort to everything. They give the right effort to the right things, the right amount at the right time, because you're never going to be done. And an executive, the true value you bring is your decisions, and you don't make good decisions if you're always in hustle mode. A great executive asks, what's the highest impact use of my energy today? What can I stop, simplify, or delegate to free up my headspace for the work that truly moves us forward? This shift is everything, because you shift from doing everything to doing what matters most. But in addition, when you focus on letting go of stuff to what really matters, you're getting more alignment. That alignment does a couple of things. 1, alignment reduces stress. But 2, it means you do make better decisions. And when you make better decisions, you're less stressed. And 3, when you are doing this work, it just gives you energy rather than taking it. You're in your zone of genius rather than drudgery, right? So this one is so incredibly important. This isn't about delegating for the sake of delegating. It is about simplifying for the sake of simplifying. It is saying, this is the work I need to be doing. This is the work that actually means I'm contributing to this team in a way that only I can. And by the way, I'm talking about executives here, but this applies at every level of the ladder. There is work that only you can do. There is work that is your zone of genius. You shouldn't be doing stuff that isn't aligned with the business needs, the business imperatives, and in your zone of genius. Now, there will be times when you have to work outside your zone of genius, yes, but stop doing everything. Do what matters most. So, quick check in for everybody listening. Where are you over efforting right now? Where are you over efforting? Drop one word in the comments. Maybe it's meetings, firefighting, perfectionism. I've got somebody in there who said recovery. That's because you're in the recovery mode. Oh, Julie, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Right. But I would like to know, what are you over efforting right now? Are you meeting too much? Are you firefighting too much? Are you perfectionisming too much? I would love to hear that. Now let's talk about shift 2. Moving from people pleasing to principle-led boundaries. Yes, we're going to have boundaries based on our own principles. Here's some truth that hits closer to home for a lot of us as women in tech. We don't just overwork, we over please. We say yes to keep the peace. We take on extra to avoid letting anyone else down, and we do this at home too. We over prepare to avoid being questioned. We do the dishes because we don't want to ask our partner again to do the dishes today. But what people pleasing creates is an identity, whether it's a leadership identity or a home identity, built on compliance, not credibility. The fix, boundaries, but not the fluffy kind. I'm talking about principle-led boundaries where your no is rooted in alignment and not guilt. It sounds like, that's not the best use of my time. Let's focus on the outcome we're driving. Or, I want to make sure this aligns with our Q4 priorities before I commit. It's alignment, principle-led boundaries, right? Rather than, I'm going to say no to this because I don't have time. That's harder to say no to. I think this is one of the things I think we struggle understanding when we are trying to learn boundary work. It feels like we've just got to learn to say no. And sometimes I will just get clients to practice saying no so that they don't freak out. It's okay to say no. But ideally, where we want to come from is saying no from a really healthy place. And this is it. Boundaries built on principles show our clarity, our leadership, our strategy, not selfishness. And because of this, even though it might be uncomfortable the first couple of times, people are going to get behind you straight away. Because remember, you don't actually have to have boundaries around your time. You might think you need to work all night and then decide that you're not going to. But really what you need to do is have boundaries around your commitments. And the commitments should be aligned with the work you have. Now, you already have boundaries. I think some of us forget this. We think, I say yes all the time, I'm burnt out, I work all the hours, I can't put boundaries in. And we tell ourselves we can't put boundaries in. You already have boundaries in place because you sleep. You might not think this. You might think, I can't say no. You already do say no. You go to sleep. Maybe you actually do go home and feed your kids sometimes, or feed the pets, or whatever it is. You will already have boundaries by default because the human condition requires you to. Even if you're in a company, and heaven forbid you're in this company, but you're in a company where you're expected to sleep in the office, which, by the way, in most states is not allowed. But, you sleep in the office. There's still a boundary there, which is, I'm going to go nap now, right? So you do already have boundaries. And so what we're doing is taking those and bringing them to a healthier, tighter place, rather than it being a boundary because otherwise you're going to collapse or you're not taking care of your kids. You're bringing it to a place where you can do your job better. So I want you to remember this. Every time you say no from alignment, you're saying yes to your longevity. You're saying yes to better decisions. You're saying yes to the business, because the business needs you to be aligned with what they actually need, rather than saying yes to all the things that come in. I think so many of the things that a company does are just because we did it yesterday. And when you say yes or no from a place of alignment, you're saying yes because it is a strategic priority, right? So I think it's really worth looking at, why are you saying yes? Okay, the third and final shift here before we move on to how to lead inside a broken system. So the third shift, though, is moving from reactive to regulated. This is an internal. It's our nervous system we're talking about regulating. Because burnout doesn't come from workload, it comes from living in constant reaction and stress. When you're always rushing, firefighting, overthinking, your body never gets to reset. Regulated leaders, the ones who have a regulated nervous system, are calm leaders. We pause before responding. We breathe before deciding. We notice when we're spinning and choose to slow down before we speed back up again. And I do this one all the time. My brain spirals, everybody's brain spirals. One of the things I've learned in the last 5 years is how to notice my brain spiraling. It's unhealthy, and calm myself down. And then I speed back up again. It takes seconds. But here's why it matters. You don't get trusted because you do more. You get trusted because the stuff you do makes a difference and you provide calm in chaos. So next time your Slack or your email lights up, that meeting goes sideways, a client is unhappy, try this. Pause, breathe, ask yourself, what's my next strategic move? 3-second pause is what separates reactive leaders from regulated leadership. That doesn't mean you're not going to have bad days. It doesn't mean your heart's not going to beat hard. It doesn't mean there are not going to be days when you're like, oh my goodness me, that was a hard one, right? But you're just going to allow your body to reconnect with itself a little bit more frequently than it has done, okay? These 3 shifts, strategic energy use, principle-led boundaries, and regulating our nervous system as a leader, are what makes burnout-proof leadership possible. And they're the ones that aren't just one-time fixes. These are practices. I want you to start embedding them. Because when you start living by them consistently, burnout doesn't just fade, it stops coming back. And that's what I want for you. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, because even when you're doing all the things right, setting boundaries, regulating your energy, staying intentional, it can feel like you're fighting a losing battle. And that's because if you're honest, and I'm honest with you, believe me, that's my job, our system is broken. Tech moves fast, and that tends to be an excuse for we got to work harder. Budgets shrink, and that tends to be an excuse for do more. The pressure to do more with less never really stops. And too often, burnout is baked into the system itself because of this. So if you've ever thought it's not just me, it's the culture, it's the expectations, it's the pace, you're right. I work with so many women who, when we dig down into it, the best thing for them is to exit. But let's talk about this. What can we do even if we can't fix the whole system? First up, I want you to know there are companies out there that are better. There are lots of them. I have worked with women, moving them into these companies. They do exist. They also change over time. Every company changes. Every culture changes with every person that joins. I truly believe this kind of thing comes from the top. So you need to look closely at an executive team. But I want you to know you can lead differently inside a company, even if the company isn't flourishing. But when you decide to lead differently from a place of anti-burnout, what you'll find is if you have the impact I'm going to talk about in a moment, the company will actually flourish. I've seen it time and time again. Hustle feels like the route to success, but it rarely is. You might get there accidentally, but with burnout along the way. And I know there are companies out there that have an attitude of it's okay to burn out our teams, or just recycle them every 18 months. I feel that is the most horrendous way to run a business. I don't actually think it's good for business. I think if you could run that company in a parallel universe where they didn't have that attitude, I think it would go further faster. But hey, that's just me. Sustainable leadership makes better decisions, smarter decisions. It means you get to the result without the hustle or burnout, and therefore losing the talent that knows a lot about what you do because they aren't burning out. So here are some things I want you to think about from the leadership angle, even in a broken company. Number 1, influence the microculture. You might not control the company culture, but you can control your team's culture. You get to model what healthy looks like. It's as simple as encouraging people to take breaks. I'm a big believer in 25 or 50-minute meetings and finish on time. I know that's hard. I struggle with it too, but give people space to breathe between meetings. It makes you more focused in a meeting. You actually get through an agenda. I find people do the same or more work, but they're doing better. And even though you're spending less time hustling together because you're taking those short breaks between things. Secondly, stop glorifying overwork, right? We gotta stop doing that. You've got to be the leader that leads. There are a lot of people who will stay until their boss leaves. Don't be that person. And then thirdly, set expectations so urgency doesn't become the default. And what do I mean by that? That means y- nothing, unless you are working with literally life and death, there are very few things that require you to have your phone on at midnight. There are very few things that require you to genuinely break everything else you're doing and move to this. Now, if you've got, you're working in a help desk situation, you've got deliverables, you've got customer expectations. Yes, there is some urgency, but often you can expect that and build it into your strategic processes, right? Don't allow urgency to be the default way your team operate. It should be a rarity. Doesn't mean there aren't situations where urgency matters, but it should not be normal. When you lead this way, when you encourage people to take breaks, when you don't glorify the overwork, when you don't have urgency as default mode, you don't just protect yourself, you become the buffer that protects your team too. And I've had people do this working with me, and they're always a little bit like, oh, is this going to work? Their team becomes better performing every time. I've never had a client try this and not get more results from their team as a result. So this is why I'm absolutely convinced that if we stopped burning out our teams, we would actually do more, because I've seen it on the team level. I want to see this on the company level. Big companies. I've done it with small companies like startups. I've never done it on a bigger company. Hey, Fortune 500, come talk to me. Let's have that conversation, because you don't need to burn out your team for success. So try this one. Okay, let's talk number 2 on what you can do as a leader, even in a broken system. I want you to model, excuse me, let's have some tea. I want you to model sustainable leadership. People don't listen to what others say, they mirror what others do. And particularly if you're a leader, you're in a position of authority. If people respect you, they're going to mirror you. If you answer messages at midnight, your team learns that that's what's expected. If you say, I'm taking a break so I can think clearly, you give everyone else permission to do the same. And remember what I said about regulating yourself. Breaks regulate. Just 30 seconds can regulate you. 5 minutes is golden. You're not just modeling boundaries, you're reminding everyone what strong leadership looks like. Okay, the third thing you can do right now, even if you're in a toxic workplace, protect your team's energy and your own. So when I talk about these 3 things to do, this being the third one, even if you're in a toxic culture, a burnout culture, I want you to realize that this isn't just supporting your team, this is supporting you too. Because you are a role model, when people see you sliding towards burnout, they are going to burn out too. So you will need to protect your team's energy by showing them how you're protecting your own energy. When you see someone sliding towards burnout, step in early. Ask, what can we pause, delegate, or simplify for you right now? Don't wait for performance to drop. Don't wait to have to put them on a pip. Act while there's still energy to rebuild. Because protecting energy isn't soft leadership, it's truly strategic. Bonus, leave when you realize you're propping up this toxic company. So everything I've said up until now is something you can do, even when you are in a burnout culture. But I have far too many women come to me and they tell me the reason they've not moved on is because if they leave, their team will suffer. Their team is staying because they're staying. My team is great. They're loyal to me. They're fabulous. And I have to point out to them. And so if this is you, I'm pointing this out to you right now. If you are staying to protect your team is probably staying because they're loyal to you. At which point you and your team are propping up a toxic company. You're propping up a toxic company. If that company is wrong and you know it inside, and I have this conversation almost weekly, you are saying, actually, rather than saying it's about protecting your team, what you're saying is, yeah, we'll keep making money for you. When you reframe it like that, do you want to keep making money for them? Now, that doesn't mean you've just burned all the bridges and quit today, unless you're burnt out, right? Fine. I mean, it's time to start looking and stop telling yourself you've got to stay because you need to protect your team. Your team is probably staying for you. And also, if you are protecting your team, you know what? They also need to get out. Because although you can hold a lot of it as an umbrella, some of it's going through, I can promise you. however good you are. Some of it's trickling down. Allow them to leave too. Okay, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Where do you see your system causing burnout the most right now? Is it unrealistic timelines? Is it lack of resources? Is it unclear priorities? Is it something else? I'd love to hear from you in the comments, or if this is a fragile thing for you, drop me a DM on LinkedIn. Where is burnout manifesting in your organization right now? What is causing it? The truth is, you can't outperform a broken system, but you can absolutely lead differently inside one. And that's where the real change starts. One leader, one team, one decision at a time. Okay, let me finish up today with, we've got 5-10 minutes left maybe. If you've got questions about any of this, by the way, drop in the comments. Send me your questions. Happy to go through them as this is our last burnout session. But I want to finish up with a burnout-proof framework, your playbook for letting go of burnout. So let's talk about everything we've learned over the last 3 weeks, but also like how to pull this together as a high performer, because you are, if you're here, you're likely a high performer. I know you like frameworks, checklists. So let's give you something that you can start actioning right now, today or tomorrow morning or Monday morning. This is my burnout proof framework, a 4-step playbook you can use to beat burnout for good. Step 1, pause. You know, I love that. Notice, pause, reframe is one of my things, but pause. You can't fix what you don't notice. Start by noticing your signals, your energy, your tone, your focus, your patience. Are you losing it with your family in the evenings? These are your data points. Are you getting more crunchy with your team? That's a data point. The moment you catch yourself getting snappy, spinning, zoning out, that's a signal to pause. Ask yourself, what's actually draining me right now? That question alone can interrupt the burnout loop. Pause. I swear, it is the most powerful tonic for burnout. Pause, interrupt. Number 2, protect. Once you've noticed the signal, you need to create a boundary fast. This might look like saying, let's revisit this once we have clear priorities, or moving a non-essential meeting, taking a short break instead of muscling through. You can't prevent burnout without protection. It's your armor as a leader. Protect. Step number 3, prioritize. Get strategic. Not every fire needs to be put out by you. Not every idea needs to be executed right now. Ask, what's the highest impact use of my energy today? If it doesn't move the needle on that, it can wait. Remember, the goal isn't to do it all. It's to do what matters most with energy and intention. Interestingly, if you are consistently able to work on high impact work, it acts as an inoculation against burnout because you are feeling so aligned. And alignment reduces that stress that is the cause of burnout. It could be that nothing else changes but this simple moment of focus, and that's enough to keep you away from burnout. And by the way, if you get your team to do it, bonus, they stay away from burnout too. Okay, step number 4, power up. This is the piece most people skip. Recovery isn't indulgence, it's maintenance of our bodies, our brain, and our leadership. Find one daily habit that recharges you, whether it's a 5-minute walk, journaling, music, quiet coffee time, going to the gym, whatever floats your boat. Protect it like you would a board meeting. It is non-negotiable, because a leader who feels energized makes better decisions, builds better teams, and lasts longer in the game. And when you have all of that, you're going to have less stress. You're going to make better decisions. And because of that, you're going to have less stress. This is why there's a positive reinforcement loop. The more you take care of yourself, the easier it is to stay away from burnout, because you are doing things at work that mean there is less stress at work. Those 4 steps: pause, protect, prioritize, and power up. You got them, 4 Ps. They are your burnout proof toolkit, your playbook. Pause, protect, prioritize, power up. Use them daily, weekly, whenever things feel heavy. Write it as a screensaver. Pause, protect, prioritize, power up. You got that? And if you start building this habit now, you'll not only feel more grounded, you'll lead with the kind of presence that makes others want to follow you. Okay, I'm hoping this one has been a bit of a game changer for you. I'd love to hear in the comments, is this going to work? Are you going to have a go? You're going to have a go today? You're going to have a go on Monday morning? This isn't just treating burnout as a buzzword, but it is a leadership reality because burnout isn't just exhaustion, it's what happens when high achievers keep looking like they did at the start of their careers, long after the game has changed. So, what have we covered? We've talked about how it happens at the top. That's what we talked about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and how to spot the signs early. We've talked about how to build a career that fuels us, not drains us. And then today we've talked about how to beat burnout for good, breaking this cycle, changing the way we lead, not just once, but for the rest of our careers. If you take nothing else away from this burnout series, take this. You don't need to slow down your ambition to stay well. Please stop telling yourself you just need to take a year off or you just need to let go of being a tech executive. I can guarantee you that being a tech executive is not the thing that's going to cause you burnout, right? It's what you do to get there. It's the choices you make along the way, and there is another path. You just need to channel things differently towards sustainability, not survival, because sustainable leadership isn't just about protecting your energy, it's about protecting your impact. It's about how you build a career that lasts, one that feels good on the inside, as well as looking good on the outside. If this has resonated with you and you want to go deeper, DM me for the word toolkit and I will send you my burnout to balance, I should say, burnout to balance toolkit, right? The tools you need to reset, refocus, and lead with energy. And if you're feeling like the edges of burnout are really here and you need deeper support, reach out to me for my Lead Without Burnout Accelerator program. That's where we do some real work together, coaching to ensure that you are approaching your career with high impact, but burnout proof for good. Okay, so that's the end of the Burnout-Proof Leadership series, but I'm not going anywhere because next week we're kicking off something brand new. I know a lot of you are going into annual performance cycles, whether it's now or at the end of the year. We're in Q4. Performance is now a thing. So what we're going to talk about is the promotion playbook. Specifically next week, we're kicking off the promotion playbook series with why as overperformers we stay stuck and how to change it. So yes, you need the confidence we talked about earlier in the summer. You need the burnout prevention toolkit we've just been talking about. And then we need to talk about how to turn your career into something that means you get a promotion. If you've been delivering results but still not getting that next promotion, this one is going to hit home for you. We're going to dig into visibility, executive presence, the real reasons brilliant women like you get overlooked. So make sure you're following me and register for next event. I will drop the link to that into the comments for today's event later on today. I cannot wait to dive in. But before you go, I'd love to know, let me hold you accountable. What's one shift you're going to make as a result of listening to this burnout series? Is it pausing before saying yes? Is it protecting your time more intentionally? Or maybe redefining what success looks like? Drop in the chat because sharing is the first step to making it stick. Thanks so much for joining me for this series. I've loved it. This is the stuff that really makes me love what I do, because if I can help one woman step away from burnout for good, hey, I've changed the world for the better. You've worked hard to burn out now. Let's make sure that never happens again. Let's build leadership that lasts and change the world as we're doing it. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.